Hello, my name is Alexi, and I wanted to make I guess, a message or video, and the reason is this: that um, when I was a young Christian, I used to I heard about this actually this guy Paris Reidhead called 10 Shekels and a Shirt by Paris Reidhead. Um, but then when I grew up as more of as a Christian, I guess grow more in a faith and started studying the scriptures for myself. I realized that like his application, let's just say, is quite you know off track. Let's just say that. So that's why I have this title, the real 10 shekels and a shirt. So first, I want to read actually Judges chapter 17 and 18 because it's actually the whole story. Because I think the breaking of the chapter is fine, but it's really the same story. It's actually quite a short one. So let's read it. So Judges 17 verse 1. There was a man of hill country of Ephraim, whose name was Micah, and he said to his mother, "The 1,100 pieces of silver that were taken from you, about which you uttered a curse, and Elsa spoken it in my ears. Behold, the silver is with me. I took it." And his mother said, "Blessed be my son by the Lord." He restored the 1,100 pieces of silver to his mother. And his mother said, "I dedicate the silver to the Lord from your hand for my son, to make a carved image and a metal image now. Therefore I will restore it to you." So when he restored the money to his mother took 200 pieces of silver and gave it to the silversmith, who made it into a carved image and a metal image, and it was in the house of Micah. And the man Micah had a shrine, and he made an ephod and household gods, and ordained one of his sons, who became his priest. In those days there was no king in Israel. Everyone did what was right in his own eyes. Now there was a young man of Bethlehem in Judea, of the family of Judah, who was a Levite, and he sojourned there. And the man departed from from the town of Bethlehem and Judea, to sojourn where he could find a place. And as he journeyed, he came to the hill country of Ephraim, to the house of Micah. And Micah said to him, where do you come from?" And he said to him, "I am a Levite of Bethlehem in Judea, and I am going to sojourn where I may find a place." And Micah said to him, "Stay with me, and be to me a father and a priest, and I will give you 10 pieces of silver a year, and a suit of clothing in your living." And the Levite went in. The Levite was content to dwell with the man, and the young man became to him like one of his sons. And Micah ordained the Levite, and the young man became his priest, and was in the house of Micah. Then Micah said, "Now I know that the Lord will prosper me because I have a Levite as a priest. Okay, next chapter. In those days there was no king in Israel, and those days the tribe of the people of Dan was seeking for itself an inheritance to dwell in it. For until there was no inheritance among the tribes of Israel had fallen to them. So the people of Dan sent 5 able men from the whole number of their tribe, and from Zara, and from Ishtaol, to spy out the land and to explore it. And they said to them, go and explore the land. And they came to the hill country of Ephraim, to the house of Micah, and lodged there. When they were by the house of Micah, they recognized the voice of the young Levite, and they turned aside and said to him, who brought you here, and what are you doing in this place? What is your business here? And he said to them, this is how Micah dealt with me. He has hired me, and I have become his priest. And they said to him, inquire of God, please, that we may know whether the journey on which we are setting out will succeed. And the priest said to them, go in peace. The journey on which you go is under the eye of the Lord. Then the 5 men departed and came to Laish, and saw the people who were there, how they live in security, and after the manner of Sidonians, quiet and unsuspecting, lacking nothing that is in the earth, and possessing wealth, and how they were far from the Sidonians, and had no dealings with anyone. And when they came to their brothers in Zaroch and Eshtoal, their brothers said to them, what do you report? And they said, arise, and let us go up against them, for we have seen the land, and behold, it is very good. And will you do nothing? Do not be slow to go to enter in and possess the land. As soon as you go, you will come to an unsuspecting people. The land is uh, spacious, for God has given it into your hands, a place where there is no lack of anything there is in the earth. So 600 men of tribe of Dan, armed with weapons of war, set out from Zerich and Ishal, and went up and encamped in Kiriach Jearim in Judah. On this account, that place is called Mehinia Dan to this day. Behold, it is west of Kiriath Jearim, and passed on from there on the hill country of Ephraim, and came to the house of Micah. Then the 5 men who had gone to scout out the country of Levish said to their brothers, do you know that in those houses there an Ephraid household gods, a carved image and a metal image? Now therefore consider what you will do. And they turned aside there and came to the house of young Levite at the home of Micah and asked him about his welfare. Now the 600 men of Danites, armed with their weapons of war, stood by the entrance of the gate, and the 5 men who had gone to scout the land went up and took the carved image, the Ephraim, the household gods, and the metal image, while the priest stood by the entrance of the gate with the 600 men armed with weapons of war. And when those went into Micah's house and took the carved image, the ephod, the household gods, the metal images, the priest said to them, "What are you doing?" And they said to him, "Keep quiet, put your hand on your mouth and come with us and be to us a father and a priest. Is it better for you to be priest to the house of one man, or to be priest to a tribe and clan in Israel?" And the priest's heart was glad. He took the ephod and the household gods and the carved images, went along with people. So they turned and departed, putting the little ones and the livestock and the goods in front of them. When they had gone a distance from the home of Micah, and men who were in the houses near Micah's house called out, and they took over the people of Dan. And they shouted to the people of Dan, who turned around and said to Micah, "What is the matter with you that you come with such a company?" And he said, "You took my gods that I made and the priest, and go away, and what have I left? How then do you ask me, what is the matter with you?" And the people of Dan said to him, "Do not let your voice be heard among us, lest anger follows lest angry fellows fall upon you, and you lose your life with the lives of your household." Then the people of Dan went their way, and the Micah, and said that they too strong for him. He turned and went back to his home. But the people of Dan took what Micah had made, and the priest who belonged to him, and they came to Laish, to a people quiet and unsuspecting, and struck them with the edge of the sword, and burned the city with fire. And there was no deliverer, because it was far from Sidon, and they had no dealings with anyone. It was in the valley that belongs to Beth Rehob. Then they rebuilt the city and the lives in it, and they named the city Dan, after the name of Dan, their ancestor, who was born to Israel. But the name of the city was Laish at the first. And the people of Dan set up the carved image for themselves, and Jonathan the son of Gershom, son of Moses, and his sons were priests to the tribe of Danites until the day of the captivity of the land. So they set up Micah's carved image that they made so long as the house of God was in Shiloh. So let's go back to some of the things that I clearly see, and like some of the things that just God opened me from the text. So let's read just Judges 13 verses 1 and 4, going back the previous chapter, and says this: there was a man on a man of the hill country of Ephraim, whose name was Micah. By the way, if you're confusing Micah with Book of Micah, which is also in the Old Testament, those are just two different people living in two different times, but by the same name. Also, like you have Jude, like for simplicity, Book of Jude was instead of Judas Iscariot. Those are the same name in Greek. Well, technically Hebrew, but you know, New Testament is written in Greek. So those are by the same name. And I think Micah, in Hebrew, I think it's God-alike. Makayoho pronunciation actually, and does it give you Makai? So it's actually in First Kings as well. So it's actually technically 3 or maybe in 4 Micahs, Micah, and its actually definition is who is like God. So, and going back, so interesting thing, like from Judges 17:1 through 4, it says this: there was a man of the hill country of Ephraim whose name was Micah, and he said to his mother. So notice this: he confesses to his mother that he stole 1,100 pieces of silver that were taken from you, about which you utter a curse. So the mother whose silver was stolen, she pronounced a curse upon somebody who stole from her. And Elsa spoke it in my ears, behold, the silver is with me, I took it. It's interesting, when I was a young child back in Russia, and I was also unconverted at that time, child of the devil, I also took money from my mom, like, you know, it's quite interesting. Like I said, when I was unbeliever. An interesting thing, and his mother said, blessed be my son by the Lord. And he restored 1,100 pieces of silver to his mother, and his mother said, I dedicate the silver to the Lord from my hand for my son, to make a carved image and a metal image. Now, so notice this: she doing pretty much, she committing something in the name of God, in the name of the Lord, which totally forbidden and punishable by death in the Old Testament. Like some preachers, they command people eat food sacrificed to idols unto the Lord. Some people coming up with man-made traditions and teach those traditions in the name of the Lord. So, or some kind of sin in the name of the Lord. Like, I'll give you example, like, good example, like, at least from my life and what I have seen is like Mark Driscoll, for example, whom I used to listen. I'm no longer listening him anymore, but he's so many books and so many sermons. He taught about sex, and I would say sex in marriage. However, let the married couple figure for themselves out what to do and what not to do. some people are way too involved into pretty much to the things that it's really by application. Well, it's like not totally like, let the Christ be head of every man, you know, in the new covenant. And it's like some things, it's like just like, dude, like you cannot talk about those things and plus rates them 17 plus or 18 plus, however he rates it. And it's just like, you know, whatever. But interesting things. So the mother dedicates in a silver to the Lord and makes engraven image which is abomination before God. An interesting thing that else I noticed this, that according to Deuteronomy 13 verses 6 through 10, it says this: if your brother, the son of your mother, or your son, or your daughter, or the wife you embrace, or your friend who is as your own soul entices you secretly, saying, let us go and serve other gods, which neither you or your fathers have known, so some of the gods of the people who are around you, whether near you or far off from you, from the one end of the earth to the other, you shall not yield to him or listen to him, nor shall your eye pity him, nor shall you spare him, nor shall you conceal him, but you shall kill him. Your hand shall be first against him to put him to death, and afterward the people of all, and afterward the hand of all the people. You shall stone him to death with stones, because he thought to draw you away from the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. And kind of a connection between this, like between mother and a son. In Luke 14:25 to 26, it says this: now great crowds accompanied him. It talks about Jesus Christ. And he, Jesus Christ, turned and said to them, if anyone comes to me and does not hate his own father and mother and wife and children and brothers and sisters, yes, even his own life, he cannot be my disciple. Whoever does not bear his own cross and come after me cannot be my disciple. So, what's his name? Today, we don't need to stone nobody to death. We should not. All we can do is just excommunicate somebody or just stop talking to them or hanging out with them. And like lots of people, for example, say like, well, this is love less. Well, if the person serves another god, makes another god in the name of God of the Bible, we should, I mean, there's some, first of all, like in Ecclesiastes 3 1 through 8, it says, for everything there is a season and a time for every matter under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up what is planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to seek and a time to lose, and a time to keep and a time to cast away, a time to tear and a time to sow, a time to keep silent, and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace. So how I understand like Luke 14, when other passages says it's time to love, love your enemies. So it's time to love your enemies, and there is a time to hate your father and mother and brothers, sisters, and wife. So, and when is to hate your relatives is when two examples of like Galatians 1 verse 6 through 10 and 1 Corinthians 16 verse 22. I am astonished that you are so quickly deserted him who called you in the grace of Christ, and are turned to a different gospel, that there is not that there is another one, but there are some who trouble you and want to distort the gospel of Christ. But even if we or an angel from heaven should preach to you a gospel contrary to the one who preached to you, let him be accursed. As we have said before, as now I say again, if anyone is preaching to you a gospel contrary to the one you received, let him be accursed. For am I now speaking the approval of man or of God? Or am I trying to please man? If I were still trying to please man, I would not be a servant of Christ. And 1 Corinthians 16 verse 22. If anyone has no love for the Lord, let him be accursed. Our Lord come. So, and by the way, 1 Corinthians 16 talks about particularly people who claim to be Christians, because we all born as unbelievers, as sinners by nature. So, let him be accursed, referring to people who claim to be Christians but do not keep his commandments, because he who loves me, Christ says, will keep my commandments. So, even in the New Testament, if your mother, for example, tells you to build an idol in the name of the Lord, oh, by the way, technically both of them should be stoned to death. Well, I mean, who's getting stoned to death first? Because, well, technically the mother said that, hey, Micah, well, Micah should be stoned for stealing or dishonoring his mother, but then mother commits another sin. So Micah commits a sin of theft, but he restores it. But then the mother commits a sin of idolatry in the name of the Lord. And any sin can consider to be an idolatry in the new covenant. So it could be, like I said, idolatry or it could be like adultery, fornication, like some sexual sin in the name of the Lord. Like one of the topics that people didn't bring up, many pastors, so just kind of shake hands with each other and wink an eye, is that if a man divorces his wife except for sexual immorality, talking about physical sexual immorality, not just the lust in the mind, but else physically, because like some preachers, oh well, he looked at pornography, but the question is this: why just pornography? Why not limit? Why just limit to pornography? What about if a man went to Walmart or a woman went to Walmart and lusted after one of the magazines which on a shelf? Or some people, I don't know if you have been to Walmart, but the kind of dress inappropriately, or like that cause you to lust. So the point is that it's like adultery in the name of the Lord, like it, because specifically it says except for sexual immorality, where physical sexual immorality once again. But now it's like, well, the husband is a drunkard, so pastors would approve divorce in the name of God, which is adultery. So they make a woman to commit adultery while her husband's still alive. Or even like domestic violence. Sorry, it's not for the cause for divorce. What's his name? What's the other common ones? But yeah, those like three common ones, like pornography, which is yeah. But I mean, I wish I would go in more detail, but I don't want to go to. But the point is this: like, okay, divorce in the name of God. When divorce was some, if a minister counsel you, said, hey, you can divorce your husband because he looks at pornography. The question is this: you who say that, have you ever looked with woman who is not your wife with lust in any situation, in a store or whatever? Or you just limit to pornography? Number two, domestic violence. Guess what? It's not cause for divorce. And what's some third one? What's some? I already named it. I'm sorry, I forgot about it. But the point is this: that look, oh yeah, a drunkard. Like for example, if he's addicted to drugs or alcohol, so some preachers say it's okay for you to divorce your wife. I mean, they would counsel a wife that it's okay for you to divorce your husband, which is adultery. You pastor who said that, he makes a woman commit adultery in the name of God. In many cases they don't realize it, but it is what it is. Continue on. So continue on. So family business and the hireling. So Judges 17 5 through 17 verse 5 through 13. And the man Micah had a shrine, and he made an ephod. By the way, ephod. Let's look at the ephod. What is ephod? Perhaps the whole case that Micah built a house of God, a chapel in imitation of a sanctuary. He made. So notice this ephod. Or something ordained priest and made while. So something is actually commanded by God. So interesting thing, like it talks about ephod and the household of gods, ordained one of his sons who made who became his priest. So interesting thing here, Micah combines ephod, which is ordained by God, something is ordained by God, and household idols, which is abomination before the Lord. And many preachers are mixing things up. They combine something that God commanded, and then something is abomination before God. So Micah he combines those two things. And then interesting thing, also notice about family business, and ordained one of his sons who became his priests. So I notice quite a few, I just call it family business churches, where older man is a pastor, main pastor. His son is like assistant pastor. his wife is like a financial clergy. His like son-in-law is maybe another pastor, and like his daughter is like a worship leader, whatever. And I've seen this quite a bit in all kinds of circles where really some people still like amateur, but because they have family connections, it will get them into the leadership of the church immediately. And of course, like I said, I don't believe in like this one-man show type thing. I believe in a participatory meeting where every believer can bring, well, every male, I should say, male believer within congregation can bring something to the table, which I'm had another video about it, but that's something to mention. And then interesting thing, like family business, it's quite interesting, because how is this Mr. Micah can ordain one of his sons to be a priest? I thought you have to be a Levite. If you're part of a Levitic tribe, you're automatically a priest. In the New Testament, every single believer is a priest of God, but in the Old Testament, you have to be a Levite, which, by the way, Levite comes along. But the point is this, that he had no right to ordain one of his sons to be a priest. And continue on, and later on, so Micah comes around. So now there was a young man of Bethlehem in Judea, of the family of Judah, who was a Levite. So this guy was qualified, and he sojourned there, and the man departed from the town of Bethlehem in Judea to sojourn. By the way, it doesn't matter where you're from. Is it Bethlehem, city of David, or some other place? Some people really put thinking too much about location. Like, oh, you went to the seminary, or you were born there, or you born in that family, then you're good to go. Most like, oh, you was born in a Reformed Baptist church, like as a child, and you grew up there, and you pretty much memorized the catechism. Good for you. Well, oh well, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. In the New Covenant, it's about new birth. However, some people still think in earthly, so just have to mention it. And the Micah said to him, "Where do you come from?" And he said to him, "I am a Levite of Bethlehem in Judea, and I am going to sojourn where I may find a place." So this guy is like looking for a place to live. And Micah said to him, "Stay with me, and be to me a father and a priest, and I will give you 10 pieces of silver and a year, 10 pieces of silver a year, and a suit of clothing, and your living." So this guy was set. He had a salary. He had a clothes. He had his living expenses paid. Interesting thing, like back in Louisiana, I was talking to one pastor who went to the seminary, boys' college. Interesting, Boyce, I think how it spells it, boys' college. And what's his name? And he said that many so-called preachers turned into Presbyterians because they know that Baptist preacher would probably start off about like 30,000 a year, versus a Presbyterian preacher who starts off about $50,000 or $60,000 a year. And it's kind of like, even though they know there's nowhere infant baptism is found, they would still do it because of money, because of financial prosperity. So something to think about it. If you are going to seminary, well, I should say is that find a local church where they can teach you how to use different tools like concordance, interlinear Bible, different translations, how you discern which translation is right. Things like who can teach you somewhat of a basic grammar of Greek and Hebrew, things like that. So it's sad to say, of course, seminary, like I think I mentioned before, but seminaries is a man-made tradition. So find a church that can, local body church that can teach you all things. But anyway, continue on. So he sets some money up, and the Levite went in, and the Levite was content to dwell with the man, and the young man became to him like one of his sons. So it's like they love each other, they bow down to idols in the name of God, you know, they living a good life. Back in Las Vegas, there was I used to go to this emerging church, Valley Bible Fellowship, and I remember I was a son-in-law, uh, was pretty much was a co-pastor in it, and interesting things that I call this that it's just the son, they, like, you can see that the main pastor and the son-in-laws, they love each other, yet they preaching false gospel, false message, an abomination before God. So it's pretty disgusting, let's just say that. But notice this, that even the wicked love each other. Will the Father give? So it's like even the evil man, apart from Christ, they can have love towards one another. They can truly become like a family. So, but they will never truly love God. They will build metal idols. I mean, in the name of God. So something to think about it. You know, yeah, the false converts can love one each other dearly, but they will not rebuke each other. They will just be okay. They will be okay doing abominations in the name of the Lord. So continue on. Oh yeah. So interesting thing. Before I move on, Christ says in John 10 verses 11 through 15, I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. He who is hired hand is not a shepherd. So notice this. He who is a hired hand is not a shepherd. So somebody gets paid, who does not own the sheep, sees the wolf coming, sees the false teacher coming, and leaves, and sheep and flees, and the wolf snatches them and scatters them. He flees because he's hard man, and cares nothing for the sheep, which we also will read later on in next chapter. So notice this, hired hand is not really a false teacher, because wolf is a false teacher. Hired hand is somebody who may know the truth, but he will not contend for the faith, like in this, like described in Jude. They know the truth, but they be like, well, they see the wolf coming, but they will not fight the wolf. they will not protect a sheep against the wolf. They'll be like, well, this guy is actually, like, especially somebody with a name like Billy Graham, for example. Um, they're like, or in a reform circles, Martin Luther. Oh, well, he believed in, what's the name, baptism of regeneration, that baptism, water baptism or water immersion saves automatically a baby, which is heresy, false teaching, false gospel, false way of salvation. But then they're like, uh, uh, you know, or somebody, for example, Doug Wilson, who else teaches baptism of regeneration, comes along and they're like, be careful, don't touch God's anointing, something like that. Or, we gotta be careful, he did so much things for Christianity. It's like, no, you're a hired hand. You will not defend the faith. Next thing, also notice this, since Micah gets paid money to, what's his name, to serve, he's a hired hand automatically. And notice what Christ says in Matthew 6, verse 19 to 24. Do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and rust destroy, and where thieves break in and steal, but lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust destroys, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. The eye is the lamp of the body, so your your eye is healthy. Your whole body will be full of light. But if your eye is bad, your whole body will be full of darkness. If there is light in your if then the light is in you is darkness, how great is the darkness? No one can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to the one or despise the other. You cannot serve God and money. Interesting thing, like some preachers kind of like almost take the things out of context, trying to apply to different things, but they specifically talk about money, covetousness, like do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth. And then look, if you have a covetous eye, if you have a what's the name? If you trying to serve God and money at the same time, you cannot. You cannot. It's impossible. That's what Christ is saying. So continue on in Judges 18:1 through 31. Some of applications. So let's start reading it. And it says this. So okay, no, what's some let's start verse 2. So the people of Dan sent 5 able men from whole number of their tribe, from Zerah and from Isial, to spy out the land and to explore it. And they said to them, go and explore the land. And they came to the hill country of Ephraim, to the house of Micah, and lodged there. When they were by the house of Micah, they recognized the voice of the young Levite, and they notice this. So they going from the Dan, one of the tribes, and notice this. So what is his business? This is how Micah dealt with me. He has hired me, and I have become his priest. So they said to him, "Inquire of God, please, that we may know whether the journey on which we are setting out will succeed." And the priest said to them, "Go in peace. The journey on which you go is under the eye of the Lord." So, interesting thing, like they are on a military campaign. They, what's some, they pretty much send the spies out, and it's kind of like almost reminds me of a military chaplains back in the U.S. Army, and it's almost the same thing. It's like, look, Christ says, and he cautions them, saying, "Watch out, beware of the leaven of the Pharisees, and of leaven and of Herod. I mean, beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and the leaven of Herod, who is the governor." So the leaven of Herod is so much the leaven of Trump, or 11 of Obama, or 11 of George Washington, who was a Freemason, by the way. It's and military chaplains. Oh, it's United States is a Christian nation. No, it's not. It started rebellion against the king. Why they rebelled? Because of taxation on a tea. Because the rich class, by the way, like if you study it, it was like what, 25% willing to support that rebellion against the king, and 25% was for the king, and 50% neutral, or they trying to stay as neutral as possible. As you call it a Christian nation? Come on, it's a Freemason nation. It's all about money. They start killing people, rebelling against the king because they didn't want higher taxes. Come on, some greater cause. Come on now. Think of this also. Render to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God's. So once again, give whatever belongs to the government, but do not give what belongs to God to Caesar. And I believe that military chaplains, they give what belongs to God to Caesar. I was a plumber in a U.S. Army, and was a transportation specialist, pretty much loading ships, loading cargo and stuff, and really, what's the name? There's a big difference between working for a government, like doing some kind of like plumbing work, or being an electrician, or carpenter, or even an infantryman, versus being a military chaplain. Big difference. And since, of course, you give to Caesar what belongs to God, now you automatically have to present some little leaven of Herod, little leaven of Trump. And this little leaven of Trump will take over the whole doctrine. I have seen it with some of the supposedly Christians. So be careful. Be careful. Continue on. Oh yeah, where we stopped. So, and they said to him, "Inquire of God." So inquire of God. So automatically, like, but interesting thing, like, notice this verse 6, and the priest said to them, Go in peace, for the journey which you go is under the eye of God, of the Lord. I'm sorry. And it's just like military chaplains. Like, look, they will bless you. Nobody will rebuke you, or they will just be silent, like Nicodemus. Just they know the truth, but they will not speak the truth. So continue on. So they departed. Then the 5 men departed and came to Liège and saw the people who were there. Now they lived in security after the manner of the Sidonians, quiet and unsuspecting, lacking nothing that is in the earth and possessing wealth, and how they were far from the Sidonians and had no dealings with anyone. It's honestly like those people in Laish remind me of the parable of a man who said in his soul, let me destroy my barns and build a bigger one and be merry and be happy and enjoy my life. And then suddenly destruction came upon him. That's what kind of reminds me. It's almost like people like rich middle slash upper class goes to those mega churches, 501c3. They're trying to do a little bit of a I don't know, religious activity, and then government comes down upon them. Because they're 501c3 church, tax exempt, deductible, and boom, they're in jail, or they have to renounce their faith, or they have to take some of the things back what they have said. I mean, kind of reminds me those people of Laish. And and when they came to their brothers in Zirach and Istoa, their brothers, and said to them, "What do you report?" And they said, "Arise and let us go up against them, for we have seen the land, and behold, it is very good. And will you do nothing? Do not be slow to go to enter in and possess the land. As soon as you go, you will come to an unsuspecting people. The land is a spacious. I don't even know what this means. Spacious people has given. Oh, to a large land. Okay, to a large land. For God has given into your hands a place where there is no lack of anything that is in the earth. So 600 men of tribe of Dan, armed with weapons of war, set out for Zirah and Stioal, and went up and encamped, and on this account that place is called Mihinia Dan. To this day, behold, it is west of Kiria Jearim, and they passed on from there on the hill country of Ephraim and came to the house of Micah. Then the 5 men who had gone to scout out the country of Laish said to their brothers, "Do you know that in those houses there are ephods, household gods, a carved image, and a metal image? Now therefore consider what you will do." And they turned aside and came to the house of the young Levite at the home of Micah and asked him about his welfare. Now the 600 men of Danielites, armed with their weapons of war, stood by the entrance of the gate, and the 5 men who has gone to spy out the land went up and entered and took the carved image and ephod and the household gods and the metal image, while the priest stood by the entrance of the gate with 600 men armed with weapons of war. And when those went into Micah's house and took the carved image and ephod and household gods and the metal image, and the priest said to them, "What are you doing?" And they said to him, "Keep quiet, put your hand on your mouth and come with us and be to us a father and a priest. Is it better for you to be priest to the house of one man, or to be priest to a tribe and clan in Israel?" And the priest's heart was glad. He took the ephod and the household gods and carved image and went along with people. A couple of years ago, there was like a interesting thing. I think it was like a grandson of Billy Graham, Tichilik, something like that. That's some weird name. I was kind of shocked that this guy like spoke perfect English, but it's kind of like foreign first and last name, and like pretty much the whole thing was that there was like I think it was James Kennedy died in this Choral Ministries, one of the big Presbyterian churches. I think it's like 5,000 plus people in it. But this Tilian, whatever, he left his like small church, and they pretty much promised him like big salary most likely, and so the salary, so like he left his flock, like this one Micah's one person, I guess, and went to be like flock of 600 plus men, whatever it is, or whole tribe, because of money. And later on he got caught in adultery, and got kicked out from there, but then some other ministry hired him. So yeah, so to me it's, look, there's so many people who will do religious work in the name of God for the sake of money and wealth and lucre, like in King James talks about, translation. So before, a couple of videos, I made a video about like pastor's salary, which I don't see nowhere in the scriptures, and I deal with all the 1 Corinthians 9, 1 Corinthians 6, 16, other texts about double honor, and it's just like, look, just go get a regular job. And in the new covenant, if there's only one person able to teach out of like, I don't know, 100 men, then it's not a new covenant. I'm sorry, it's not. But continue on. Oh, I think that's it. So they turned and departed, putting the little ones and the livestock and the goods in front of them. When they had gone a distance from the home of Micah, the men who were in the house near Micah's house were called out, and they overtook the people of Dan. And they shouted to the people of Dan, who turned around and said to Micah, "What is the matter with you, that you come with such a company?" And he said, "You took my gods that I made and the priest, and go away, and what have I left? How then do you ask me, what is the matter with you?" And the people of Dan said to him, "Do not let your voice be heard among us, lest angry fellows fall upon you, and you lose your life with the lives of your household." Then the people of Dan went their way, and when Micah saw that they were too strong for him, he turned and went back to his home. So, like, notice this. Even both of them, like, people of Dan and Micah are idolaters. They will still have some kind of zeal. They will still have some, what's some desire to get their idols back somewhat. It's like if the pastor, or like, for example, I'll give you an example. Here we go. Many people trying to get, what's his name, C.S. Lewis into their camp. Oh, he would be a good Roman Catholic. Oh, he was such a good Protestant. Oh, he was such a that guy. When reality is that this guy was into witchcraft. He was ecumenical. He believed lots of um, heresies, like what's some purgatory would be one of them, but it's a bunch of other things. But the point is this: it's like some religious folks will fight for their idol, which in that case would be like C.S. Lewis. Um, so the point is that uh, even some false converts will have some religious zeal in them. Continue on. Then when Mike saw that they were too strong for him, and turned and went back to his home, but the people of Dan took what Micah had made, and the priest who belonged to him, and they came to Laish, to a people quiet and unsuspecting, and struck them with the edge of the sword, and burned the city with fire. And there was no one to deliver, because it was far from Sidon, and they had no dealings with anyone. So they like was isolated by themselves. Nobody would help them, because they were isolationists. And it was in the valleys that belongs to Beth Reidhead. Then they, by the way, that's why you want to have uh, other Christian brothers in your life around you who could help you in a time of need. So you want, but since the person had no dealings with anyone, they hadn't had no dealings with anyone. They just perished. The people then set up an graven image for themselves. The Jonathan, the son of Gershom, son of Moses, and his sons were priests to the tribes of Danites until the day of the captivity of the land. So they notice this: son of Moses. I don't know if it's the Moses of um, son of Manasseh, son of Manasseh. Moses is found. Okay, so it was not. Okay, so grandson. Okay, son. So somewhat. So maybe it was a son of um, Moses. So think of this. In many cases, I remember like they even have like a daughter of what's her name? What's his name? I'm trying to think of. Well, I mean like daughter of Billy Graham. proclaim something in a church where in the Bible prohibited. In the New Testament, 1 Timothy 2 says that a woman should not teach or exercise authority over men. And 1 Corinthians 14 talks about women should be silent in the church, and if they have any questions, let them ask their husbands at home. So, but many people will blink an eye if they like by the flesh, like some kind of relative of somebody's famous, they would blink an eye. Oh yeah, daughter of Martin Lloyd Jones. I remember I was like, okay, by the flesh, really? Like, but some people do that. That they see like, wow, son of Moses. Wow, wow, son of Billy Graham, or grandson of Billy Graham. Wow, or daughter of Martin Lloyd Jones. Wow, wow. So what is of the flesh is of the flesh, what is of the spirit. It doesn't matter which family you was born. If you in Christ, you in Christ. Jew or Gentile, black or white. Were you born in a supposedly Christian family or unbelieving family? If you in Christ, you're a new creation, and you are the high priest of Most High in the new covenant. Hope it's been blessed. Well, I still want to maybe go over Zechariah 11, 4 through 17, but the point is this, talks about like become a shepherd of the flock doomed to slaughter, and one of the things is that like it's good union and favor or grace is the best spiritual poison for doomed flock of goats, and some people willing to take money for to shepherd them. So but anyway, I hope it's been a blessing. If not, you still can contact me. Probably just gonna make it from now on a routine where you can contact me, and if you have true concerns that say, hey, Lexi, you're false teacher, you need to shut up, be quiet, you can contact me. Send me email. It's my email, mail.com, or by the way, that's actually a small a. Then you can Facebook, it's Alexi Korean, or you can even call me. 53578. So there is my information. If you believe that I'm preaching nonsense, you can contact me by those three ways. You can call me or text me. Call or text. There we go. Oops. So if you believe I'm false, send it to me. You know my number, you know my email, you know my Facebook address. I mean, by which name you can search me. That's it. Have a nice day.